morning, guys. We are your hosts, Lori
and Shenisse, certified spiritual life coaches. We're so glad you're here. Welcome to Coaching Sessions, a series here on Branching In, where we coach you through various life challenges.
And guys, just so you know, you don't have to fix anything right now. Just be here and let our words meet you where you are. So, in today's episode, we will be coaching you through the ways in which we abandon ourselves. So, let's start off, Shenisse, with what is self-abandonment? And self-abandonment is when you abandon your truth, needs, or inner knowing to maintain external peace, approval, or control.
Yes. And so some of the ways that can look is saying yes when you mean no.
Yes.
Or minimizing your feelings to keep the vibe light. And I know for me personally, I did that a lot. I would find myself in these uncomfortable situations. And instead of letting that be my clue that like, okay, well, maybe I should extricate myself from the situation, I would just brush off my uncomfortableness or minimize it. Be like, oh, so it's not that big of a deal. So what? I'm uncomfortable. It happens. Yeah. And so I would minimize it and make it okay that I was uncomfortable, even though looking back, it wasn't okay. And it would have been okay for me to leave or to have said no in the first place. But back then I did not know that.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and Shenisse, that you hit it on the head. For me, a very big way that I would abandon myself is by minimizing my feelings, the feelings that I really wasn't taught to feel in the first place, but to keep the vibe in my family okay was to just be okay at all times, at all costs. And if that kept the balance and the peace for my family, that's what I would do, because I didn't want to feel uncomfortable or I wanted everybody to be okay. So I was always gauging my audience, my surroundings, my environment, and adjusting to what would make sure that everybody is doing okay. I didn't tune in with how I was doing. I was tuning into how everyone else was feeling. That was my biggest thing, is like, how, they might not like that. How are they feeling? Oh, they don't look good. And I honestly, I didn't even really know how I was feeling because I was so hyper focused on everything outside of me.
Yeah, same. I did not take my own feelings into consideration at all, ever. I was so busy reading the room, reading everyone else's emotions, trying to make sure that the energy in the room was okay, that I never even bothered to ever go within to see how I was feeling and to see if I was okay. That was just not on my.
It's just what you do. Yeah. I mean, I might have been holding my breath that whole time. I would have no idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you were
Why do I feel lightheaded?
Yeah, because you were, I was so hyper focused on everything. Like you said, reading the room. That is, oh my gosh, that has been a big practice of most of my life, is reading the room and making sure everybody else is doing okay. I know another really big one for me in abandoning myself was overgiving in relationships, calling that love. Like, to show and give love is to give and give and give without limits. Like, the sky is the limit. I mean, I literally, Shenisse, remember buying someone a car in a relationship. Because I needed so much approval of that love. But again, later knowing how much that I abandoned myself from overgiving in relationships and calling that love.
Same. I would contort myself in all sorts of ways, bend as much as I could without breaking, to just make sure to give, and to make sure that everyone else had what they needed, that everyone else was taken care of, without ever checking to see if I had everything I needed.
Exactly. Well, you would take from you, right?
Yeah.
You would take from you your cup to give to others. So you were actually emptying out. We're not saying it's not okay to give, but not having any awareness of why, like, where that was coming from.
Yes. Yeah. Of over giving.
Right.
Yeah. Another one for me was avoiding rest because I didn't deserve it yet. So I always felt like I had to earn my rest. So if I wanted to have like a
So
relaxing
true.
day or a relaxing moment, I would schedule all of these things that I would get done. So then I could rest and be like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
I could never enjoy rest if I hadn't earned it yet, if I hadn't
yeah,
worked for it yet.
yeah.
I
I
mean, I
still
felt
challenge with that sometimes today.
I felt like I was being lazy or I just wasn't doing enough. And I struggled with that for a long time. And yeah, same Lori. I still struggle with that sometimes. I just have to remind myself like, no, I'm human.
Yeah,
I'm much better at going based off my energy. So depending on my energy level that day, if I'm feeling energetic and like I want to do it because it feels good to, then I will. And some mornings I wake up and I don't have the energy. I'm not exactly sure why, but I'm feeling a little depleted. I'm feeling tired and I'm like, "Okay, you know what? I'm going to take the day for me." And
yeah.
I'm better with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree, Shanice, that I same struggled with avoiding like knowing I really did a lot, had accomplished a lot, very productive. I needed to know the day was very productive for me to give myself that permission
Yeah.
to rest. And I have to say that's probably a bigger one for me that I still come in and out of today, that I am definitely a type A person. I do really, it's important for me to get a lot done in a day, but I'm becoming more aware of my body and cues to know, you know what, you don't feel good, or you know what, you're running yourself down. I don't need to do all that. That can be done tomorrow or next week. So I'm not looking at the list as it has to be done right now. If once I checked in with myself and I'm not feeling it, I'm giving myself more permission to not have it all happen at one time.
Yeah.
So that has definitely changed. Another thing that I have noticed, Shanice, is I have stayed in a lot of relationships, friendships, just relationships in general that
Mhm.
weren't necessarily serving me. And again, that's a form of self-abandonment, because
Yeah.
if it's not serving me, I never really looked at that as abandonment. But when
Yeah.
you think about that on a deeper level, staying in things that aren't for you is abandoning you.
Yes.
So it's a different way to look at it, and that actually helped me leave relationships because then I was realizing that's a form of self-love. But
Mhm.
that's such a interesting twist to that.
Yeah.
How about you?
Same. So I most of my relationships, I feel like were dysfunctional in some form or another. Again, mostly because I wasn't being true to myself. I was overgiving. I was overextending my energy. I was people pleasing, like all of these things that create the environment of a dysfunctional relationship. So once I started really looking at that, healing that, and changing those aspects of all of my relationships, it really transformed. And so some relationships fell out of my life, some relationships got stronger, got more meaningful. And I have fewer relationships in my life now, but that works for me because they're authentic. So the ones that I do have
Yeah,
are authentic and come from the breeding ground of a healthy relationship because I did the work. But yes, for
well,
a long time, my relationships were misaligned and I stayed in them more out of like the sense of like, well, you don't leave, like especially with my Catholic upbringing, it doesn't matter. You don't leave. If there's something wrong, then there's something wrong I'm doing. I need to fix it. I need to give more. I need to do more.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
always, yeah.
That's the
So,
overgiving.
yeah.
Yes. So, Shanice, one thing I've realized about abandonment is having a fear of being abandoned. It was real for me, and being alone. And with that fear of being alone, I would hang on to things that weren't meant for me. So I was really abandoning myself because of having the fear of abandonment.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Yes, that's exactly how that works. The more you fear being abandoned by someone else, the more likely you are to abandon yourself, to hold on to that relationship, to that thing. Uh,
Right. And I've stayed in long abusive relationships from that fear of being abandoned.
yeah,
But so crazy that that fear of being abandoned, I was literally abandoning myself in the process.
yeah,
So again, back to what we talk about a lot on this podcast is self-love. I had to cultivate that self-love from within
mhm,
and not need anything from the outside, which is huge to not go into having an abandonment issue of being alone.
Yeah.
So not to abandon myself.
Yeah. And really just being okay with when you are true to yourself, anything that falls away is for you. So being okay with relationships falling out of your life, being okay with, things crumbling, it's okay. So basically, anything that falls out of your life from taking care of yourself, from loving yourself, and from stopping that cycle of self abandonment is meant to. So
Yeah.
let it go.
Yeah.
Just let it go.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's easy to let it go when you have yourself.
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
haven't abandoned yourself. It all it's a circular thing, but it was easy for me to let things go when I had myself and I was secure within myself.
One of the hardest things when it comes to self-abandonment is knowing when you're doing it. That was the hardest for me. Was I didn't know I was doing it for the longest time, as we were saying, Lori. So one thing that really helped me catch when I was abandoning myself was to go into my body and see, what am I feeling in this moment? What am
Mhm.
I feeling that I am not paying attention to? So plug into your body, figure out what you're feeling, because the feeling is your knowing that you are abandoning yourself. So some of those feelings for me were discomfort. Like,
Mhm.
okay, if I'm uncomfortable, why am I uncomfortable? And it doesn't in any way have to do with me abandoning myself. Or resentment. That's a
No.
huge one. Like
No.
feeling resentful, which means I've gone into forgiving, or I'm saying yes when I really mean no.
No.
Right. And so just letting the feelings in my body clue me
Yeah,
into
be your guide.
how my actions could be leading to self abandonment.
Mhm.
So, yes, the feelings are a guide. Exactly.
Yeah, and that comes from that people pleasing. That people pleasing is a huge part of abandonment
Mhm.
because we were like, concerned about everybody else's feelings and feeling that, like you said, that resentful feeling that comes up, but you're actually the one responsible for bringing that in because having that ability to say yes or no was within you. Feeling, like you said, knowing what that feeling feels like is your first clue.
Yes. And that's where you want to start. And that's what will help you determine why you're abandoning yourself, like the why of it all. Self abandonment often starts as a survival strategy.
Yes.
And so it doesn't, it was actually helpful at one point in order to survive whatever it was that was going on in your environment, to abandon yourself, to kind of like dissociate from what was happening so that you could be okay in the moment. So it wasn't a bad thing. It was actually a survival
Right.
mechanism that you really needed in order to be okay as a little kid. But now that we're adults, it's time to switch that survival mechanism and really put in place things that are healthy and that will help you to thrive and that will benefit you in the long run.
Yeah. And just having that awareness of what it feels like. And like you said, really, it started as a survival strategy and validating that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
the next step, really, Shanice, is bringing in the validation and normalizing that this is why this is happening. This is the
Mm-hmm.
way I had to minimize my feelings to keep the peace in my family, to keep the balance. This is what I was, programmed to do to have everything run smoothly. So there
Yeah.
wasn't smoothly for what if smoothly was for your family. And that just was on autopilot and then checking in to reprogram that autopilot
Mm-hmm.
and having that awareness and normalizing it. First step one is validate that that was normal and that's what happened when you were a child and that's how you survived.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, one of the reasons why it was so easy for me to abandon myself was because I was not in tune with my feelings. So I was not really allowed to express my emotions in the environment that I grew up with in as a kid. So my ego would just, to protect me, would just minimize everything. Or I was very good at dissociating and just pretending that what was happening was not really happening. I love to read. So I would read, I would go into other worlds and pretend I was somewhere else. And that was kind of one of the ways I survived my upbringing. And so because I had no relationship to my feelings, I completely
Mhm.
ignored my feelings. I dissociated from them. I was not in my body for a lot of my childhood. And
Yeah.
so that made it so easy for me to then grow up and abandon myself
Yeah.
because again, how can you stop something when you're not in your body long enough to feel
Yeah.
what's happening, or the emotions that are coming up, because the emotions are, like you said, Lori, are guides to kind of tell us, oh hey, wait a second, this doesn't feel good, let's
Right.
not do this anymore. But I was completely out of touch with my
You were
feelings.
disconnected from that part of
Yes.
you. You're
Yeah.
completely disconnected, and you actually had to disconnect with that part of you, and you had no relationship with that part of you, which makes complete sense.
I cannot imagine. Like when I first was learning about my ego and how my ego used those defense mechanisms, like minimizing and dissociating, I was upset. And then doing the work and down the line, I realized I'm actually so grateful because I cannot imagine having grown up in that environment and not having been able to dissociate or to
Yeah.
minimize. That would have been horrifying.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
like, just, you're a helpless child. There's nothing you can do. And you're
Exactly.
at
You
the
couldn't get in the
mercy.
car and drive away, so you were
No,
forced
you're
to be there.
exactly. I was at the mercy of everything that was happening around me. I had absolutely no control. So all I could do was minimize and
Yeah.
dissociate and unplug
Yeah.
from the reality of the present
Right.
moment. And I'm so grateful that I could do that when
Yeah.
there was no other options for me. And the difference is now that I have more options and I'm now
Mhm.
employing those options.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just the feelings of it is so important so that you can really catch what's going on and kind of take it from there
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Exactly.
creating that awareness.
Right. Exactly. So, Shanice, so like you said, so the path back to yourself, which we're talking about today, is when we say to yourself, we were abandoning ourselves. And now we're aware of where we're abandoning ourselves and how it feels to abandon ourselves. So we're creating this awareness and bringing it back to us.
Hmm. Yes.
So, Shanice, the first thing really that has helped me is just asking myself, how am I abandoning myself right now?
Yes, yes, exactly. Name it.
Mhm.
That's the most important thing because that's what will really help you cultivate more awareness around it. So, name all of the ways in which you're abandoning yourself in that
Mhm.
moment, as many ways that you can name.
Yeah.
And as you do this more and as you cultivate more awareness, you'll be able to really catch all of these different ways.
Yeah.
So, name it and write it down
Yeah. This is a
because
great time to pull out the journal and write things down because you'll have self realizations that will come in that you're like, holy cow, I never even realized that.
exactly. And our brains are funny. One thing I realized is if I did not write it down right away, it would immediately go
Be
unconscious.
gone. Yep.
Yes. And so that's kind of like the ego's resistance because
Yep.
remember, the ego has spent your whole childhood protecting you in
Protecting.
this way, and
Hmm.
it wants you to be
Yeah. And it
safe.
did a damn good job.
Yes. Oh,
It wants
such
to
a good
keep
job.
going. Yeah.
Yes. And so it's like, okay, well, I've kept you safe this way. We're going to keep it going. I'm going to continue to use what I know works. And that's so sweet,
Yeah.
but no longer helpful.
Yeah.
So name it and write it down immediately so that you can keep it in your awareness. And then you really want to validate
Yeah. That's a big
why,
part.
yeah, why you're self abandoning and why it's normal based on your past history.
Right. And like we talked about, Shanice, the examples that we used in this episode of it was normal to minimize my feelings because when I grew up and how you grew up, you expressed the same way, we weren't able to feel our feelings. That was not part of what we learned. So it was normal to minimize them because we didn't even have a relationship with our feelings. We weren't able to feel our feelings. So that is normal that I abandoned myself using that survival technique because this is how I survived my childhood and
Yes.
really, really normalize that. That is, oh my gosh, it just lightens it up immediately.
Because
Like,
it takes away the blame. Like,
yeah,
how can you blame when you catch yourself self abandoning? and you validate why that's so normal, it takes away the whole judgment
Yeah.
and the blame. It cuts that straight out. And then you're able to just, yeah, like, yes, that is so normal. It wasn't safe for me to feel my emotions in the environment that I grew up in. It wasn't safe for me to feel them or express them. So, of course, I'm abandoning myself right now. All right, so to lay it all out for you, you are going to ask yourself how you are abandoning yourself. When you become aware that that's what you're doing, you're going to name all the ways that you're doing so. Then you're going to validate why it's normal, and then write down any self-realizations that come up before they become unconscious.
Yes. And then Shenisse, so once you do all of that, now we want to create, okay, what do we do next? And we are going to pivot to make different choices
Yes.
that are embracing ourselves and not abandoning ourselves.
Yeah.
So if you were saying yes when you mean no, we're going to start getting comfortable with saying no. You could practice in the mirror. I know that's what I first started doing. It sounds silly, but saying no was like, and I was like going on a roller coaster. The more you go on the roller coaster, it kind of gets easier. It's not as scary. So you just
Yeah.
got to practice and practice saying no to strangers, because I found that too was easier for me to do than certain closer relationships.
One way I would do it, I laugh every time I do this, no matter how long I've been doing it, because it's just hilarious and fun. But I'll be like doing chores around the house, and I'm practicing saying no, like, nope, I can't do that today, or no, I've got too much on my plate. I can't. And just again, because the more I practice, the more comfortable I get. So when it
Yeah.
happens in real life, it's just, nope,
Yeah.
can't do it. Can't do
Yeah.
it.
And it just, again, it's just, and it's being comfortable with the uncomfortable feeling that is going to come with it for a little bit. It
Mhm.
will come a point that that won't feel as uncomfortable. Also, this is huge takeaway here, being comfortable with the uncomfortable, because there will be some uncomfortable feelings with this because you've been doing it a different way for so long.
It's
So of course
new.
it's going to feel uncomfortable, and validate
Exactly.
that. And again, you could make this in columns in your journal. So, awareness of what you're doing, and then what you want to do, what your goal is, what you're pivoting towards. The
Yes.
next one, like if you are over giving in relationships, on your other column is start creating a boundary list.
Yes.
Make specific boundaries to things that you know that you don't have a specific boundary on, or kind of think about what your boundaries are. So that's a whole nother topic, but that would be something that would help you in the over giving in relationships.
Yeah.
If you're
Un-
minimizing your feelings to, keep the peace and abandon yourself, take some time to really feel all your feelings. And that's just something you're going to have to put time for. And again, that's a way of self-love, putting some time into, and everybody's is going to be different because it depends on how much you actually took to feel feelings.
One for me, one thing that I would catch myself saying a lot that like clued me into minimizing my feelings is, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
I would say that phrase like, oh, well, it's not a big deal. And so
Yeah.
now when I say it, I'm like, whoop, am I minimizing my feelings right now? And it's
Yeah.
just like a great little like check in with
Yeah.
me. So if
Yeah.
you catch yourself thinking phrases similar to that or saying them, let
Mhm.
that be your clue. Like, wait, am I minimizing
Yeah.
my feelings? And
And
if you
those are,
are, like Lori said, go feel them, even if it's just 2 minutes or 5 minutes. I have 6 kids, so I'll lock myself in the bathroom and I'll just like, okay. And I'll just let myself feel it. And sometimes I don't have that much time. I'm busy and I've got things I got to do. And sometimes I do. But whether it's 5 minutes or 15 or an hour, whatever time you have, just make that work for you. And you'll
exactly.
start to kind of get in the habit of really allowing your feelings to have a voice.
Exactly. And that's when some of these self realizations will come in. And having that journal right there while you're going through this is very helpful.
Yeah.
And then the one other one that we talked about today is if you're avoiding rest, is that, you're abandoning yourself by avoiding rest, to check in with yourself a couple times in the day and pay attention to body signals that are happening before it actually you're already there. And again, it's a practice, and put different things maybe on your other sheet of like times to check in. Have I checked in with myself today? Because I know I'm a kind of go, 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 and I'm learning to stop, breathe, check in and really see, how am I feeling right now?
Mm.
And give myself that permission. I don't have to earn this day. I can rest. It's okay.
Yeah,
And there's another day I can do others when I feel in a better position and I'm not abandoning myself. And I'm actually going to do better with those tasks that are ahead because I'll have more energy.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Taking rest when you need it actually sets you up to have the energy to take on everything else that you need to do in your day instead of like working on fumes.
Right.
That's not helpful to you, it's not helpful to anyone. So,
Yeah.
it really
Yeah.
is so important to take it when you need it.
Exactly. Okay, so to wrap it up, Shanice, in this episode, we have brought awareness into some of the ways in which we abandon ourselves and how to pivot to the path back to ourselves.
Yes. And if you'd like to learn more about us or check out our products and services, you can click the link in the description. We have thoughtfully created a collection of 3 hand drawn, artistically designed journals that can be used as an awareness tool as you heal from self-abandonment. And I love those journals. I use them myself. So
Yeah,
check them out.
same, same.
All right, that's it for this episode. Thank you guys for listening to Branching In with Shanice.
And Lori, join us for our next episode. We post every Friday. See you guys then. Bye.
See